Hello and welcome to Lead to Excel podcast, where every story sparks inspiration and every conversation brings you closer to your best self. I'm Maureen Chiana, and I'm here to explore the extraordinary fusion of leadership, emotional intelligence, and the groundbreaking insights of neuroscience. Together, we'll uncover secrets to unlocking your potential, enhancing your decision-making, and elevating your performance to new heights. Whether you're leading a team, building a dream, or simply on a quest for personal growth, you're in the right place. So let's dive in and transform the way we think, lead, and live. Welcome aboard. Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Lead to Excel podcast. And today, I've got a lady who I met her once, and I said, I've got to get you onto this podcast. And we've been trying to do this. So I'm so pleased and honored to have you, Dr. Chichi Menakaya, on our podcast today. Thank you so much for making out the time to come. And guys, you wouldn't believe it. This is Good Friday, holiday, and she woke up to do this podcast with me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Honestly, I think it's long overdue. We should have done this ages ago, but I'm really grateful. And yes, I know it's Good Friday, but I think it's good. We're actually doing something good on Good Friday. So I think
True.
The work you do is fantastic. I've been following the stuff that you sent to me, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. Doing something good on Good Friday. That's so cool. Right. So Dr. Chichi Menakaya is an award-winning trauma and orthopedic surgeon. She commands the global healthcare stage with unparalleled expertise and influence. I hope you heard that, because we're going to dig deep into this, guys. She was nominated Best of the Best in 2022 by the British Orthopaedic Association and bestowed with esteemed international awards, including prestigious WJ Little Medal for Orthopedics. She epitomizes excellence in her field. As the CEO of Annomo Health, a trailblazer in premium medical concierge services, she orchestrates bespoke pathways connecting elite clientele with top-tier global healthcare and wellness. She founded Annomo Foundation, a charity dedicated to supporting individuals in developing countries through healthcare access, education, and financial empowerment. Driven by an unwavering commitment to global well-being, she shapes a legacy of exceptional leadership, leaving an indelible mark on healthcare and humanity. Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Chichi, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maureen. Honestly, thank you. When you read that thing, I'm like, wow, this is just little me or nobody else, right? But God has been merciful. So thank you so much. Thank you. I think I give God all the glory for everything. He's the one that made the path to make it possible. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me.
So let me start by asking a question. Okay. And she doesn't know I'm going to ask her this question. What does Chichi stand? What's the full name?
Okay, so my full name is actually Chinyelo, which means God has given me a child, right? And basically, my mom has always called me Chichi, so everyone calls me Chichi. And obviously, so if people call me Chinyelo, when they call me Chinyelo, it means I'm in trouble, right? So my full name is actually Chinyelo because it means God has given me a child. And it's got a story because my mom says that I'm a gift from God to her, and that's just what it was, right? So
now I know why we are connected so much. My name is Chinyelu.
Oh my God! I didn't know
exactly.
This wow.
So my name is actually Chinyelu, and I'll tell you a story. So my name is Chinyelu, but when I was young, they called me Chinyere.
Okay.
So
yes.
You see,
because
so I remember
is Imo State, isn't it? It's from
exactly
how they say Imo State, and Chinyelu is for Anambra.
Chinyelu is Anambra, and I'm from Anambra. So, but they called me Chinyere, not sure why. And at a point, I saw my birth certificate with Chinyelu, and I was so confused. So my birth certificate is Chinyelu, but why do people call me Chinyere? I was so confused, and go on.
I've had the same thing like you've had, literally, some people call me Chinyere, and I'm always like, my name is not Chinyere, my name is Chinyelu. And for a long time, it was like, a big deal. So I just said, listen, I'm going to stick with Chichi because that is the name like most
Yeah.
people that are close to me call me. And I think everyone says, like this week actually, someone at work said to me, what does Chichi mean? I said, it means God, Chichi. And she said, why is that your name? And I said, listen, that's not really my name. It's obviously my pet name. But I think like, I feel like I resonate like what it is. And for me, I love my name Chinyelo. Get like obviously it's very meaningful to me.
Yeah.
But for me, when I call myself Chichi, I know that everything I do is standing on the grace of God, and
I
actually,
love
and
that.
that's what really gets me going. And that's why I use that as my name everywhere. Even at work, I'm called
Yeah.
Chichi because it's just what I use as my name.
I love that. I love that. Oh, so now I know why we're so strongly connected.
My God,
So
it's
yes,
so weird, isn't it? Like how
I
can have the
know,
same.
and I really didn't know that. So, Chichi, tell us a bit about you in terms of background, where you grew up, and just kind of bring us up to pre-uni, and let's
Okay.
get a feel for who you are.
Okay, so I always say to everyone, I'm just a little girl, right, that loves playing with Lego, a game. And I grew up like I was born in Enugu, Nigeria, right? And then I grew up in Onitsha for a big part of my life. And if people that don't know Onitsha is in eastern Nigeria. And it's a lot of people know Onitsha because of business and also because it's, and I think for me, Onitsha is really close to my heart because a lot of things I do today is because I have the Onitsha spirit in me. And if you know Onitsha, which is in southeastern Nigeria, it's they're known to like to be hustlers. That's where business happens. So I did my primary school and my nursery school in Onitsha. I went to All Saints. So it was called Cathedral Nursery School, and eventually got changed to All Saints. Then I went to All Saints Primary School. Now All Saints Primary School has got like a bit of a fix because initially it used to be owned by the government, and it was called Premier, and then the church took it over, and it was called All Saints. Then I went ahead to go to Baptist High School, Jos. And it's really funny because I went all the way from Onitsha to Jos to do high school, but I only spent 3 days in that high school and I came back. And this is really important to tell the story because prior to going to Baptist, first of all, I wanted to be a pilot. Then my mom showed me like all those planes falling off the sky, and I got too scared because I'm like lily livered when it comes to planes. And then I wanted to be a musician, and I didn't actually want to be a musician. I wanted to be Michael Jackson, if that makes sense in any way, because that was like my thing. It says, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I wanted to be Michael Jackson." And then I went from there wanting to be an actress. Then I went from there actually wanting to be an automobile engineer. Because as I said to you, I love Lego because I love building things. And for me, doing automobile engineering was supposed to be like to build new things and build cars because I have a lot of interest with cars. Then I went to Baptist High School, Jos, and I only stayed 3 days because I became really unwell. And at that time, I was diagnosed with typhoid fever. So my mom took me back to school and brought me back on her way back, right? And I got home to back to Onitsha. And I think this point is really interesting in my story because I could remember being at home and someone connecting an IV line to me, and this person wore a white dress and had a beautiful hat. And imagine when you're in pain, you're drenched with fever, and all of a sudden you look at this fluid coming to your hands, and a few minutes later you actually feel better, right? And this person comes with a white coat with a stethoscope and actually looks after you. And even though I was born in a medical family, medicine wasn't what I wanted to do. I just saw it as this thing where my father is always at work, my uncle's always at work. And I think that really changed my life. So from the time I then recovered, all I wanted to do was actually to be able to help people. And that's why I did like almost like a 360-degree turn and decided I wanted to study medicine. I then went on to go to a federal government girls college in Onitsha, and that was where it stopped before. You said pre-high school, isn't it? And that's where the
Yeah.
story then changes for my life, to be honest. So I think that's what I've done. And as a child, I just
Yeah.
loved climbing trees, playing with Lego, and I used to be very, very boisterous and really, really like almost like a little girl that had like a spirit of a boy inside of her, something like that.
Yeah.
That's
Has
how you
that
would describe me
changed?
as a child. Has it changed? I think a lot of things have changed. I think for me, even though I had all these different things I wanted to do, I think I'm able to achieve them now in what I do because I'm able to like literally bring them all in one. And that's what medicine signifies to me. I think I'm still like that in a bit of like, I still have that spirit of Onitsha in me that wants me to do more and make a difference. And I still have the spirit of actually constantly exploring. And I think one thing that bit pre-university has done for me is that I have the spirit of wanting to always change people's like literally make an impact in everything I do because that singular act changed the trajectory of my life, right? And I think that's really important. I think I'm still the same person. Everyone says I haven't changed since I was a child.
Yeah, that's interesting how one incident or one singular incident can actually impact you. It shows how deep that was embedded in your brain. That's interesting. Really interesting. So you then decide, to go to uni and study medicine because this has inspired you, and, take us through there.
So I went into medicine. Obviously, for my father, it was like a welcoming thing because he was like, "Oh, he's a doctor."
Yeah.
I come from a family of like medical people. My mom was a lawyer also, so I think for them it was different because this is a girl that wanted to be a pilot, that wanted to be like a singer and what have you. And then I went on to University of Ibadan. I think University of Ibadan was really unique for me to go to for different reasons. Again, as I said to you, I love making impact. So I had left like the place. I had never left home before I went to university. So it was like a really big step. Like I never went to boarding school like most people did. And so going home, my mom drove me to uni. And it was really a difficult time for me because I was leaving home for the first time, right? And even though I had other options which I didn't mention, so I went to University of Ibadan only because I was a bit of a stubborn child, also because I did get admission to go to the States to go to pre med, and also I got admission to go to the UK to actually study medicine, right? But then what happened was to do like my A levels before medicine. But what happened was I wanted to go to the States. And my father said, no, I'm not going to let you go to the States. I want you to go to the UK. And I said, no, I don't want to go to the UK. So wait, I've ended up in the UK. And therefore we had a compromise, which was I went to Ibadan. And I chose Ibadan because it was supposed to be the first university in Nigeria and it was really
Yeah.
well respected. And as I said to you, that was the first time I was leaving home. So I got driven to school. My mom was there with me, with my siblings for a few days. And then I started university. And it was quite, I think I had two different issues. One was separating from the family system that I was used
Mm-hmm.
to, even though I had like a foster mother in Ibadan, sort of, who was also looking after me. I was in her house for some time, and then I went into I went into like boarding. I went into like an Anglican boarding place to live in, right? Like a hostel, right? But then one thing that really helped me when I was in first year was I met amazing people who were able to give me that support. I had a like my godparents' son was also in Nigeria. Sorry, in Ibadan at that time. So that also gave me a cushion. I had a cousin in the university. My mom made like connections to make sure I got protection, and then obviously I could still go home to the east every time because someone came to get me to take me home. So I think that's how I went to Ibadan. Then I did preschool, pre-medical school for the first 3 years, like you do. Then went on to University of Ibadan, and so University College Hospital in Ibadan, right, which is the medical school you go to, which is somewhere else inside Ibadan. And I think that was really good because I got to meet other cultures. I got to like literally interact with a lot of people, right? And it changed
Mm-hmm.
me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
at that place, as a first year student in the university, I all of a sudden built a community of women who continue to support me till date. My best friend, I met her in Ibadan in my first year. My second best friend, I met her in Ibadan in my first year. And I'll say to you today, they're still my best friends. We talk every single day. We still do the same thing. So we then built a small group of women who have been able to support each other. And I think like I would never exchange anything to have gone to University of Ibadan because it shaped my life, really shaped my life. It taught me how to like appreciate other cultures. It taught me how to deal with other people's differences. I think that's really important for most people growing up in a place like Nigeria.
Actually, you answered the question I was going to ask you in terms of how it changed your life. And I think that's so powerful in terms of being able to live diversely, understand other people, understand what makes people different, and embrace the beauty in that. That's really good. So, Chichi, how did you find studying medicine? Were there challenges? Was there a time when you kind of asked, questioned what you were doing, but also when it came to specializing, why orthopedics?
Okay, so I'm going to start with one. How did I find medicine in medical school? In medical school, it was challenging. That was really true because I was this like high flying student and I come to this place where I knew nobody, like sort of I was starting again. And initially, the long lectures, the having to read till really late, you had to really, really be like principled to be able to do those things, right? But then I'll say something that really helped me was I had a good support system. And I think without a support system, a lot of things that we achieve, we'll never be able to do it, right? So I had a team of people that were constantly like we're either studying together, we're discussing, we're going out to study. But I think for me also, I had this noise in my ear, or a voice that followed me throughout medical school. My mother would say to me, "Do you know whose child you are?" Right? So I knew I had to succeed. I don't know, it wasn't an option for me. Like, I couldn't come home and say, "Oh, I decided to go partying, therefore I forgot to do an assignment," because it was impossible. And because my mom, especially, and also my father, had provided things to make me comfortable, right? I was naturally expected to do well. Like, in my family, you don't come back and say, "Oh, I didn't do well because this happened." We weren't really brought up to bring excuses. We were brought up to realize that to whom a lot is given, a lot is expected, right? So I think for me, that kept me tuned in. The other thing that also helped me tuned in is that by the end of first year, I was born in the Church of England, for example. By the end of first year, I had discovered something called Opus Dei, and I had started going to the center, and I had a bit of reformation, and therefore it kept me focused also about the fact that I was also walking the path of faith, right? And that meant that as a child of God, I always like quote the parable of the parable of the talents, right? Where God says, "I give people different things, and therefore what you make of that time was important." So for me, I was like, okay, they've given me like 2 shillings. What do I do with 2 shillings, right? And again, I always say the spirit of Onitsha lives in me. A lot of people know about Igbo people that they gave us nothing and you made something out of it. So I think for me, medical school was all about I had to study, I had to pass, I had to not let my parents down, more especially, and I just had to succeed. And my mom had like given so much for me to get to where I was, and I had to make sure I came home making her proud. And I'm going to share a moment with you. I remember leaving medical school. My younger sister, I'm 3 years older than her, and she said to me, "You're going to medical school now. Please do not change." And I can never forget this, right? Because the
Wow.
first time she was a young girl, I went to school like really young. And she said, "Don't change. I want you to come back as the same sister that left this house, the same person you are, thinking
Oh,
about us," right? And I get emotional when I talk about it. Actually, I feel emotional about it.
yeah.
And then what then happened was I remember coming back the first time, and this is very funny. I remember coming back the first time, and they'll send the driver to get me from then, and I had stopped on my way to from Ibadan to back to Onitsha, and I had bought my mom. My mom likes like a lot of stuff that you used to decorate the house. I bought her some vases that were made with clay, right? But handmade in
Mm-hmm,
Ibadan, and I bought a
mm-hmm,
couple of them. And as I was
mm.
walking in, and the car stopped to open the gates, I came out of the car and carried a vase so I could greet her with that massive vase, right? Like a massive like flower vase, right? And then what I
Yeah.
then did, as my sister ran to me to see me, and I startled and dropped it, and it fell, right? And I didn't feel bad it had fallen, even though I had traveled like more than 6 hours with this, because I had another option for them. And she said to me, "You haven't changed," because I didn't shout about it. We just laughed and we
Oh,
accepted it had happened,
yeah.
right? And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
That really was important to me. So those were things that helped me get to where I was. And then you asked me a question about orthopedics.
Mm.
To be honest with you, I went into medicine to do cardiothoracic surgery. That's what I went in to do. Because I decided if I was going to do medicine, I needed to do something that was supposed to be wow and impactful. I don't know how to explain. Like, I wanted
Yeah.
that wow factor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I had just read
Mm-hmm.
about healing
Mm-hmm.
hands that Ben Carson, and he was a cardiothoracic surgeon, and I was really intrigued about him. And that's what I really wanted to. And I felt like the heart controls the body, and therefore I wanted to be able to do like, like if you're going to do medicine, you have to do the one that he said controls everything, something like
Yes.
that. So I said, I'm going to do that cardiothoracic surgery, and I'm going to do neurosurgery. And I was a girl, right? And every girl, no girl does this thing, no girl becomes a surgeon, those type of things. And I said, "Listen,
Mm-hmm.
watch me. You
Mm-hmm.
haven't heard about me. You're going to see me." And then I remember 40 in medical school, right? We had just started clinical practice, and I had gone to see this consultant, and I was walking away. They had like a thing. He called me back and said, "Listen, there's been a mass casualty in accident and emergency. There's two buses collided. There are about 40 something victims. You're going to come." I had never done clinical medicine. So he dragged me to A&E, and we're jumping over bodies, right? And we're doing different things, setting a line. I learned how to set a line in that circumstance. They just teach you one. See you do one and they let you do, which is what medicine's all about, right? And then I started, and the thrill of it was amazing. I'm not joking. It was like trauma everywhere, right? We're saving people. Obviously, we lost some people. And then I walked, and then after that, I walked into the next day to go see. Some of them had broken bones. We had to put like X fixes on them, like things to like split their wound. And it was fascinating. So I went in saying, okay, this is actually another option I hadn't thought about, right? And I think what really also
Mm.
was important for me for it was that there weren't a lot of girls doing this, right? And I keep saying, why shouldn't girls be able to do it, right? Because I was brought up and told everyone is created equal in the eyes of God. So there's nothing about difference. But then what I saw that day of that accident was the fact that things were changing rapidly, right? It was like I was fixing the hand, the next minute I'm fixing the leg, the next minute I'm fixing the next minute I'm fixing the pelvis, yeah. The next minute I'm doing something else. And then I thought this is a specialty that is very dynamic, right? And at that time, it gave me some curiosity, but I hadn't decided I was going to do it. Then by the time I moved to the UK, because from medical school, I came straight to the UK. My story is also different from every other person's story. I went straight from medical school to my first job being in the UK. I then decided, yes, I'm going to do surgery, but what would I do? So I said, okay, I'm going to test out. I had never worked in orthopedics. I'm going to test out orthopedics. I'm going to test out cardiothoracic surgery, and I'm going to decide what I want to do. But what I know I wanted to do was to rebuild things because I love to play with Lego. So I just wanted to build things.
Lego.
And that
Yeah.
was it. And that
Yeah.
was my story. And then obviously I did cardiothoracics for 6 months. I loved thoracic surgery because it was very big. You open it up, but cardiac surgery is long. You have to put the hat somewhere. And I was like, man, this is not for me, right? So that's why I ended up in orthopedics. So the orthopedics is very dynamic. It changes. You're either fixing something. So you're either there's a broken bone, they're in pain, you fix it. Or somebody's spine is turns funny because they've lost confidence. You straighten them, or they're in pain, so their legs are hurting, and you give them a knee replacement surgery, and they have a new lease of life. They're back the next day, standing, going to their parties, doing things that they want to do. And that's what I wanted to do, rebuild, have toys. And then when, I don't know, when you walk into an OR with orthopedics, there's so many toys to play with. I'm a toy person. If I sit here at this age, I still own like dolls. You're going to laugh. It's not because I just love playing with things, because that's what creates me. I like to tell stories because that's life. Life is so exciting about, you want to play, you want to be happy. And I think that's what orthopedics represents to me. It represents a specialty that makes global impact, that changes someone's life in so many different ways. And I think every part of medicine is interesting. But for me, orthopedics is like I'm playing every day, I'm playing with toys, I'm doing something different, right? And I'm recreating things or rebuilding. And I think that's really important. Honestly, I can talk about this all day, Maureen. So I'm going to stop
I
now,
can
right?
see that. I can
Because
see.
I
I
love
know,
it,
but you
right?
can see the passion
I
coming
love
through,
it.
which
And I
is
think it's
so good.
I think it's amazing because it's helped shape every part of
Yeah.
my life. Everything I've done relates to the
Yeah.
same thing I'm doing to rebuild, to make a difference. They're all the same.
Mm. Chichi, do you have a daughter?
I don't know. This amazing, no kids, no husband. I've got this amazing, like I've got three nieces and two nephews, and I'm really close to them. And I also have more nephews and nieces that I'm very close to.
Do you know why I asked? It's when you said that you were playing with toy and dolls, that you still love playing with dolls. And I was thinking, because usually sometimes an adult that still plays with dolls maybe has daughters.
No, but that's with my niece, but with my nieces, and I play with them a lot with dolls.
Okay. Do you know why? Because I love playing with dolls. And I have, in fact, my friend's daughters bought me a doll for my birthday.
Oh my god!
So it's so funny. I have it here and I keep looking at it. I say, okay, I need to go and buy a stroller for it. I need to buy this for it. So I can look.
So I like so for me it's so weird. Like so during the pandemic, my sister and her kids were with me. So I had this really nice dolls. My sister's
Yeah.
kids like literally changed the shape, ripped off the hair. Like they literally played with it. And my poor dolls got destroyed. These are Barbies I've had for like, I don't know, for like 20 years or something, right? But listen,
Wow.
like for me, it's like is that love in sharing? Is that love in the laughter and the play and the
Yes.
things? And I'm
Yeah.
like, and they're like, Auntie, why
Yeah.
do you still have this? I'm like, yeah, because I like them. And it's like I still
Yeah.
keep them because they just are things that I love toys, which makes sense
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm.
in different
And it's
ways.
interesting because looking through your journey, when you mentioned what you actually wanted to do, be a pilot, be a musician, be an actress, automobile engineer, in a way, all that has come into what you're doing now. You kind of get a piece of each of those
In
orthopedics in
medicine,
what you're
yes.
doing now, in medicine generally. Yeah, absolutely. And there's something that I've noticed that's come through from what when you were talking, and it's belief. It's almost like believing in what you can do, believing in yourself, believing in God, belief seems to come through. You did mention your mom at a point in terms of what she reminded you when you were at uni. Can you just touch briefly on how your upbringing, that upbringing actually shapes or shaped what you do and the belief you have? Because one of the things that comes across a lot. Life, there are always challenges. But there's something you talk about in how you navigate through challenges, and it's you mentioned support system. You've mentioned belief seems to come through. Your belief in God as well. And I also want to see how that thread comes through from mom to you mentioned opus when you discovered that. What does that mean as well? Would be
Okay.
good to just
Okay.
touch. Yeah.
So I'm going to start with my mom, right? So I say to everyone, my mom, like, so when people say to me, who is a woman? I say the woman, for me, a woman is my mother. That's what she represents for me. And she represents a mother, a father, a friend, like a sister for me, because she's actually the reason why I always say to people, I am because of her, if that makes sense. Not just genetically, because obviously she bettered me and she had me in her tummy for 9 months and then gave birth to me. She's built everything I've become today, right? And my mom wasn't when I say this about her, people think, oh my God, she must have like pampered you. My mother was tough on me as a child, right? Because this was a child she had waited for some time. And the child came and she didn't like hug me every day and pat me and say, oh my God, you're the best thing that happened to me. Never. I'm telling you, never. None of that ever happened. Like literally, what she did was actually teach me that you have to have a solid foundation to be able to actually get to anywhere you can. And my mom will say to you, anywhere I leave you, you should be able to survive there. So and I describe her, she was a disciplinarian, but she was also my friend. So the same way she will discipline me, she will hug me when I did well, she will tell me off when I didn't do well. And unfortunately, my mom passed away 7 years ago this year. And it was,
God
and for me,
bless.
her voice follows me everywhere. And I'll give you an example. She'll say to me, I'll give an example. One time when I was a junior doctor, I went to work this day and I was really stressed because I had to take the bus. I went to be and it was really chilling cold. And I called on the phone as I was going. I said, Mommy, I'm so stressed. I feel a bit depressed. And I used that word. My mother said to you, like she literally didn't say to me, oh my God, spoil you. You feel, she said to me, my friend, people survive Biafra despite everything that's happening. Pull up your
Oh,
trousers and get going. You
yeah,
can't even have those words. And I
yeah,
think that's really important. And I think for me, every single
yes.
day she told me, whose daughter are you? Right. And I think that's really important because when I step out of my house, that leads me to everywhere I go. I always say, I want to show I want to show the best version of myself. And I still want to be authentic, but still show the best version of myself. And I think also when you talked about it, I'm a dreamer, right? And luckily for me, I grew up in a home where dreams were allowed, right? Because you have the right to dream, it's free of charge, right? But my mom will say to you, you can dream as much as you want because it's free. But for your dream to become reality, you need to put in the work in it, right? And you need to put in the work in terms of the physical work that you do, and obviously the prayers that comes with that work, right? Because as you said, we're faith-based people, therefore we know that the power of God is great, but the power of God doesn't happen because you sit down and pray. The power of God happens because He gives you a talent to go out there and you find a right foundation and you cultivate it and then you make it happen, right? And I think that's really
Thank
important.
you.
And I think, again, when you talk about faith for me, right? Faith for me is also like, I talked about Opus Dei, and Opus Dei is like a sect within the Catholic Church where most of their tenets is about being the best version of yourself and actually giving the best of you because God has actually blessed you with the talent and the skills to do more than you're doing at the moment. We don't actually understand the power that lies within us. And I discovered Opus Dei and it helped my formation, right? In terms of it taught me that, listen, I'm in school to study. I'm in school to make friends that will make a difference in life, but I have to surround myself also with only people who will want lift me up, who will want to be lifted as I grow, but more importantly, who wants to make a positive change. Because the truth is that you're going to meet people that just don't want to do anything positive with their lives. You're going to meet people that
That's true.
will pull you down and say, oh my God, they've never done it. So I always say to people, my speech is very simple. If you're someone that likes to say, I can't, I can't, I can't, I just say, kick off the T and just so I can do everything.
I
I can
can.
because you've got the
Yes.
power. Even if you're saying, oh, let me be biblical about it. God has said it's made in His image, right? So why can't you be able to achieve so much? And it's also, if you weren't being biblical about it, why is it impossible for you to do when somebody else has done it? I make jokes like this and I say, listen, some people say to me, why are you awake? Why are you not sleeping? I say, oh, wow, the day Dangote goes to sleep, I'll go to sleep. Because he has the same head as I have. Do you understand? He has the
True.
same two hands, the same nose, everything. So if they can achieve, and obviously he's about representing financial achievements, right? But there's also people that represent power. Like example, I look at a lot of people's lives. One of my biggest mentors is Richard Branson. And everybody laughs when I say Richard Branson, because I said Richard Branson was told when he was young that he was dyslexic. He will end up either in jail by his when he left high school, or he'll end up being a millionaire. He didn't end up in jail. He's taking the second option, right? And if you read about him, he'll tell you, I've done 800 companies. Majority of them haven't worked, but I've kept dreaming. And I think that's the problem people don't understand, is that we're too scared about taking risks, right? Oh, I don't want to do this in case it doesn't work. I don't want to go to this interview because they might say no to me. I don't want to do this, apply for this job because they'll say no. And I always say to people, right, Maureen, is that before I decide to apply for a job, I have no job, for example, right? When I apply and they say no, I'll still not have a job. So nothing has changed.
Exactly.
If I get that job, then that's something great. But if I decide, oh my God, I don't have a job, let me not even try to do for the job is not going to come to you, right? Therefore, I also said, like, I think when I was in primary school, year 2 or year 3 in primary school, I read this book in not secondary school, sorry, second or third year in secondary school. I read this book called we used to read this book in Nigeria called Comprehensive English, right? And there's a poem in that book that really, really also has helped me, and it's one of my guiding lights. Apart from, obviously, my mom has been phenomenal, to be honest. That's how I describe her. It's the man was writing a poem to his son, and he said to his son, if you treat success and failure as two imposters, right? The world and everything else that is in it will be beneath your feet and you will succeed. And that's really true. That what guides me.
Can you repeat that again?
So if you treat failure and success as the same imposters, right? The world and everything else in it will be beneath your feet. And I'm going to explain this better by saying, if you fail and you're running a race and you've come last, if you stand on that spot crying because you failed, the people that are starting the next race will come and get past you, and therefore you'd have failed 2 races.
That's true.
If you win the race and you're celebrating, and you're celebrating so much that you stand on the finish line celebrating, the people that came last will come and run past you, and they will, and you'll still be there. And I think that's really guided me. I have failed so many times, right? And I always hear my mother's voice saying, you've got to pick up your trousers and keep going. She always says that, pull up your trousers, girl, and keep going. And I think that's really important. And for me, these things are the things I stand on. I think I wrote something recently about the 8 pillars, right, of my life. Right? And it's really funny we're having this conversation. And I sat down and I thought about it, and I said, life is difficult, but I have these 8 pillars that really guides me. One of them is that my love for Jesus means that I know that my situation will get better, right? Because I have faith. And I also have faith knowing that he knew me by name before I was born. And I know that he said unto my head that I'll be successful. Success doesn't really mean financial success, but successful in terms of impact. Because I think in life, if you're not impacting people, then you're wasting your time, if that makes sense, right?
That's true.
Because everything you do in life is about service to people, and that is global impact, right? And I also know that God will make it possible for me, and that's one. Then the next thing I really stand on is compassion, because kindness is important. And I think for me, it's really important because I had people that were compassionate to me, and therefore I'm able to give compassion. And that's why my career comes, because medicine is a compassionate career, right? And then the other things I think about is determination, empowerment, and actually being able to, like, okay, it's not working. Let's keep going. Let's try. Rather than saying I'm not going to try, right? And an empowerment in terms of I have to make impact on other people, either through my work or through my life or through what I say to people. And to be honest with you, anyone that sees me knows I'm extremely confident. Yeah. And I think that when I tell people that I never used to be confident when I was 12 years old, they don't believe me. Right. But I used to be scared of speaking. People still say it's not true. It's not possible. You always knew. That's not true. Because there are times, and when I even say to people now that before I even have like if I said to you, more in that 2 minutes before I had this interview, I'm like, God, I want to make sure it goes well. I don't really want it not to go well. What if I don't say the right thing? What if I say the right thing? Which means I've built that, even though I still have self-doubts, I still will take that step in confidence, because what's the worst that can happen, right? I do it wrong.
Exactly.
I go back and I redo it properly. Yeah. And I think the other thing that really helps me is leadership, about being able to lead people or even lead just myself to the next point. And again, I think I stand on like excellence. I want everything I do to be very perfect. And I think the best word that I have for my pillars is resilience, right? Because it's okay to fail. It's okay not to get it right. It's okay for me to mess it up and introduce myself, like start this conversation and say, oh my God, I'm not really sure what Maureen is asking me. Why don't you rephrase this? But the resilience to keep going is so important. And I think that's what I want people to take out and say. It sounds as if when you read about me, it sounds like, oh, she's done so many great things. But there's also times when it hasn't worked, right? But I think what's helped me is knowing that The next time I can try again. The next time it's going to work. And even if it doesn't work the next time, then there must be another trajectory because I stand on the faith that it's going to be okay, right? And it's okay to retry again, but it's not okay not to take that risk. I think that's what I'm trying to get across.
That's fantastic. And I'm so pleased you shared these, your 8 pillars, because I saw it. I saw your post actually. And I think it's on that post I said, Chichi, we've got to do this podcast.
Thank you so much.
It was that post.
Thank
yeah. You. I'm going to put a link to your Facebook as well in the description so that people
Okay,
can
no
go
problem.
and read that post. It was amazing because you went into a bit more detail about the 8 pillars. Just makes sense. And that last one of resilience, or even the confidence one that you mentioned, we still get nerves. You'll still be fearful, but it's doing it with fear. It's still doing it. It's still moving ahead. And that question of what have I got to lose? And even if it fails, you pick yourself. I love what your mom says. Just pull up your trousers and keep moving. And
oh my God, she says that like a million times. She says that like a million times. And then she says something that is so funny. She always says to me, you have to be cool, calm, and collected, right?
Wow.
Cool, calm, and collected, right? And it's like I remember the words, like I'm saying to you, like I say to people, my mom is like my guardian angel. It's so like funny. Like it's 7 years, it's been a hard time this 7 years, right? Really emotional for me to talk about it. But it's like I hear that voice every single day. Sometimes I hear the voice that says to me, what will your mother do, right? What will she say to you? And a lot of people think, oh, did she like, and it wasn't a pampering thing. It was the fact that she was strict so that I could be a better person,
Absolutely.
right? And she did those things for a reason for me.
Yeah. Chichi, the more I speak to you, the more, I just feel God is just so amazing because you're talking about your mom and it's listening to you. It's like you're talking about my mom, and it just shows the power of women, of mothers. And your mom passed away 7 years ago. My mom passed away 17 years ago this year.
Oh, wow. God, I'm having goosebumps now. I'm so sorry. Like, but they're always looking after us, you know that.
Do you know that
they're
I have?
Here.
Yeah, there's a post I'm going to put out on 1st of April because that's when she died. And in it, I was talking, I'm talking about how even though it's 17 years ago, I still hear her voice. I still hear her guiding me. Even when I'm feeling low, I still hear her saying, get up, you can do this. It's amazing. Even though they've gone for so long, that impact is still there. And that's why it's so powerful in terms of whatever we do to keep serving, keep doing, because that's the legacy you leave that helps people after, or even helps people that hear what you're saying. It's so impactful. Chichi, I'm going to just jump a bit into the charity or is it pronounced Annomo Health?
Annomo Foundation.
Annomo
Foundation. So basically, and I'm going to say something to you. Annomo Foundation is actually my mother's name is Annomo. So her name is Anne Chichi Menakaya Orakwe. That's her name, right? And it's mixed up because Anne is my mother's first name. Her second name is Okuchukwu, which is the voice of God.
Voice of God.
And her maiden name is Orakwe, but her married name is Menakaya, which is my name. And we've just put it together. I didn't find that name. My brother actually coined that name when we were kids, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
he always said, oh, he's going to wake up. Like my brother actually coined that name. I said, I'm going to get a company and I'm going to call it that. So the foundation wasn't started as Annomo Foundation, as you know. We started this foundation as Okwi Maskim. And Okwi Maskim is also my mother's name because Okuchukwu is my mother's name. And that was the voice of God. And the reason why we started Okwi Maskim in 2016, we started was because we wanted to, a lot of people go around wearing masks and they don't tell people what's really going on. And I'm going to take you back to Ibadan because I said to you, I built a team of women when I was in the University of Ibadan. So when we're in Ibadan, in our first year, we realized that a lot of girls were in like bad relationships, right? And I'm going to do that and I'm going to circle back to the originality of the whole thing, right? Why we started talking about. So we noticed that a lot of girls were in bad relationship with like boys, right? I was in a relationship from when I was 15 years old and my relationship wasn't the best either, but I'm still going to say like I had a bit of autonomy. I had a bit of authority in that relationship, right? But then a lot of girls will come to my room and be like, cry about what my boyfriend's done. So with time, we just started trying to support people. It wasn't formal. We just will support people because they're having one problem or the other. My friends used to laugh and call me Mommy Ayo, and Ayo means joy. right? And my best friend Carol Obiora will say to me, "Oh, mommy, Ayo, you started again," right? Trying to help everybody. And so it was an informal thing that we did as girls. Like, we'll support each other. Our relationships are bad. We'll just do back and forth. And then when I moved to the UK after medical school, I again will come to work and I would like to know the name of the cleaner. I'd like to know the name of the nurse because I think everybody's relevant for me. And that's who I am. Like, I love people, right? And then one day while I had started my surgical training and higher specialist training, and we were in one particular hospital. There was this girl that worked with me that every time she came into my room, she was the healthcare assistant. She'll panic, right? And she'll be fidgety. And then one of the nurses said, "Oh, Chichi, talk to her," because for some reason I didn't see this in myself. Even though people tease me, mommy, people will gravitate to calling me for their problems. I've never been married, but people call me for their marriage problems, right? And I'll say to my mother, is always like, "What are these people listening to you that you're always talking about, right? Like, you're constantly on the phone talking to one person or the other." And when I spoke to her, she said to me, "Listen, Chichi, after you spoke to me, we started noticing changes." And she said, "Why haven't you actually done this in terms of from the proper group where you're actually supporting people?" So I went back to my mom and said, "Listen, I really want to do this, but my passion is domestic violence." And I'll say the first time I ever heard about anything domestic violence was when I was about 10 years old, when a friend of ours um lost their mother, because apparently it then came to light that their father had been beating their mom, and on this particular day he pushed her and hit her head and died, and that
Oh,
changed everything because the man
wow.
himself committed suicide a few months later because they were going to arrest him for killing this person. And then
Yeah.
years later, our friend died also, all related to that
Oh,
problem of that
gosh.
foundation.
Yes.
And as I
Yeah.
said to you, my mom was a lawyer and a magistrate, and she used to support a lot of women that had gone through this. And I must tell you this, my parents got separated when I was 12 years old, right? And
Mm,
for me, when I started understanding domestic violence, I could not understand how my parents could have separated amicably, like literally split up, and there was no domestic violence, there was no physical abuse, and they were still able to co-parent, right?
yeah.
To an extent, right? And therefore, I've got both parents, I'm close to both parents, even though I lived with my mom, right? And I couldn't understand why, if we could be able to do this. Obviously, I'm sure there must have been other type of things that were maybe emotional or whatever, right? But and at that point, I only saw domestic violence as just a physical problem, right? So when we started this association in 2016, we started it then, right? And I'm going to say something that's very funny. We then decided we're going to launch the charity. So our first event was about February 2016, where we had something called Amour Mérité, and we got people that were survivors of domestic violence and normal people to come in and listen to speeches. And we had NLP trainers, motivational speakers, and we talked about the work we wanted to, because what we wanted to do was not support you. What we wanted to was help you rebuild to get better. Because I told you my thing about my life is about rebuilding, right? And what I wanted to say was that, oh, wow, you're not a victim, you're a survivor. Therefore, how do we rebuild in such a way that that person that abused you will see you in 2 years and say, oh my God, this person's become phenomenal? Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
Yes.
And that is what I
Yes.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we had our first event in February, and then subsequently we had a launch event, was supposed to be the 10th of September 2016. And I'm going to tell you something that is really shocking. The 10th of September 2016, my mom was obviously a charity with my mom, like, because my mother's name is Opie and the charity is my mother's name, right? So we had this launch event in Mayfair on the 10th of September 2016. And Maureen, you would not believe it. My mom will ask me every day, when are we even launching this charity again? I said, Mommy, Saturday, 10th, okay? Exactly 6 days before the launch, and this is very critical, right? Exactly 6 days before the launch, at 12:30 in the afternoon, I had come back from church. I went up to my mother's room and I said, Mommy, I'm going to go buy the champagne for the launch, right? Because they said we could bring our own champagne, because obviously we had little funds on the day we were launching. And I went out. At 1 o'clock, I had a conversation with my mom. At 3:30, I came home. My mom wasn't at home. And I called her phone. She didn't pick, which was normal, right? And then
Mm,
she calls me back and she wasn't the one on the phone. It was somebody else on the phone. And my mother had collapsed.
wow.
I got to the place where my mother had collapsed before the ambulance got there in London. I held my mother. My mother was unconscious, right? 6 days to the launch of the charity. And we ended up in hospital. And my mother died on the day the charity was launched.
What?
I'm not joking.
Wow. Wow.
So, and I will tell you, the moment my mother died, I was talking about us. And a few minutes before then, I had to, obviously, we had the event all planned. I had to leave my mother's bedside and go to give a speech. And I said to her, Mommy, please, I need you to hold on for me. By the time I was finishing the speech and I dropped the speech, there was a car there to take me because my mother had passed away, right?
Oh, wow.
And and I could remember, like, it's so weird about, when I talk about faith being the thing you stand on. And for a long time, I was like, I didn't want to go to this speech, but she asked me so many times in that week. She was hale and hearty. There was nothing wrong with her.
Yes.
She had exercised
Wow.
that morning. There
Wow.
was nothing wrong with her on the day, exactly 6 days, right? And exactly at 9 o'clock, my speech finished at 9:05 or whatever. My mother died around 9 p.m. that night, right? And I think it's really phenomenal because this was some legacy she had given me about protecting women. That's all she's done all her life,
Yes.
helping
Yes.
support women that had been through violence with her law, she adopted so many children for so many people. And it was difficult for me because I was like conflicted on whether should I go, should I not go? And she was okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do I do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Should I go to this event? And everyone, and I knew in my heart, like, obviously that time I didn't know I was feeling so angry with myself for actually leaving that bedside and going there. But my brother was there. And then obviously I ran back to the hospital. She was still there, and that was her lifeless body, right? And we then went on to do the job just for domestic violence. So we're supporting women in refuges across the UK. Then we started supporting men over the years also. And what we did was, as I said to you, our main ethos is to help you rebuild. So when people came into a refuge, we'll give them this really nice packs that has a love sign on top of it. They're called Kickstarts by Okwi. They've got all the toiletries they need, but they have a card from us, right? They have a postcard that says a lovely message to that person. And you stick it on the wall, and it has all the guides that helps you to rebuild. And then we went on, and in Nigeria, we started something called Foster a Woman, because my mom was all about fostering somebody for somebody else. And then what we will do is start businesses for women. We started the poultry. We've done a lot of of fashion houses. We've done a lot of things. And then we started saying, listen, my mom is like grounded on designs, and I have designed clothes since I was 12. So we said, we'll do designs now so we can raise money to help people. So we started drawing designs to do fashionable things. And therefore, we're able to support more fashion houses. From us, people have gone from staying in a kiosk to starting a shop. We've got women that had no houses and stood in their house, and now they own flats.
That's
We've had people that have
amazing.
just had to do that. And we've also supported men also. We've had a guy that started out with like literally a small kiosk somewhere in Lekki. Now he has a chemist, and he has a proper shop. We saw the birth of his twin girls. We supported them as a family, right? And then obviously the pandemic, things changed. We couldn't really do the work that we did in the pandemic. So we did a lot of health retreats in the pandemic where we were sending like N95 masks to hospitals, to market women, to women in churches, so they could keep on in their business, right? And after the pandemic, I think we sat down and we said, listen, we can do more than just domestic violence. We've done things on healthcare. How do we do things? So we then integrated all our work together and said, listen, Annomo Health is the business that does support people in communities in Nigeria, but it's a business. So we brought it together and we said, we'll start the foundation called Annomo Foundation, which we started last year. We'll put Okima scheme within it and do empowerment schemes, but we'll do healthcare schemes. So part of our thing that we want to do with healthcare is actually health education more than anything else, right? Because people lack education, as you know that, right? And we want to give out a lot of like free health education. So that's what we're trying to do with health. We also want to do affordable healthcare. We've got something on the mark that we're planning on for this year, which is to launch a big affordable healthcare for people that cannot afford healthcare in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm,
especially start
mm-hmm.
out and then go out to the rest of the Africa. And the whole idea is to give people healthcare for a nominal fee or even for free if it's possible, right? And then we're also this year for our empowerment project, we started something called Vantage Point, which is basically about goal setting, supporting women again to rebuild and be the best versions of themselves. We had our first retreat in January. It was amazing. Like within 2 weeks, we planned this retreat, and I said to you, everything we do is because of service. Somebody we knew was struggling. We wanted her to come to this retreat, but we couldn't get her in because she would feel like she was singled out. So we opened it up to other women and said, you guys
Yeah.
come in so we can support one woman, right? And
Wow.
that's what it's all about. And I'm really grateful. Like, I don't do this on my own. I have a massive team of people. I have friends, and the
Mm,
same friends I've had from Ibadan are the same friends that we do the foundation together. I don't know how to
that's
explain it, right?
amazing. Yeah.
Because what they're passionate about women, they're passionate about giving. And we're not only doing stuff for women, we're also doing for men, because we have men domestic violence survivors that we've
Mm-hmm,
supported.
mm-hmm,
So we're doing a
mm-hmm.
movement for men, and we're also trying to like make sure we get people involved and actually try and get people young and train them up to become the best versions of themselves. That's the whole idea. And I think that's why we have the foundation, and that's what we're doing to get it to where we want it to be.
Chichi, well done. It's what you do is so incredible, and so I'm listening to you, and I'm just saying, God is just, the way God connects people and the way He leads us in part is incredible. And I must say that how you set up the charity, how your mom passed, that is something. For you to even go and do that speech just shows that it wasn't you, it was just God working through you, giving you the strength. And you know what I found really interesting? My mom, the day she passed, the day before, I spoke to her. In fact, when my mom goes to bed early, and I normally, at about 9 o'clock the day before, I felt, go and call your mom. And I said to myself, but, she would have slept. And I just heard, call your mom. So I went, called her. She was in Lagos. I was in the UK. Spoke to her. Great conversation. She was fine. And I said to her, okay, I'll speak to you later. I'll call you tomorrow or so. 3 a.m. that night, my mom passed away.
I'm so
She
sorry.
wasn't ill. I know she wasn't ill. It's interesting the way God works and, the way people go so suddenly, but you still have the strength to keep carrying on.
Honestly, I like what you said to me is like so sad. But what I can hear when you said it to me is that the fact that God gave you an opportunity to actually say goodbye, right? And I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
Because I keep
Yeah,
saying to myself, if I didn't have those 6 days in hospital, I'll probably not be
exactly.
here. My mom was my
Yeah.
pillar, right? I wasn't prepared. Like, this was like my worst nightmare. I woke up one day and I was a child, and then the next day I was an adult, right? And then I was an adult without a guide almost, right? I was an adult without someone to guide me, and that was very difficult for me. And I know how you feel, and I thank God that you had that opportunity to speak to her. Does that make sense? Like for me,
Yes,
those six
yes,
days in
yes.
hospital,
Yeah,
I needed it to be able
yeah.
to get through. Like, and I think we should be grateful that we've been blessed by mothers that are now angels. I know it's 17 years, it's 7 years, but let's really, we were blessed to have these people with us, you know?
Absolutely.
And honestly, I'm
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful you had that opportunity to speak to her. Honestly, because I don't know what you would have done. Because it's almost impossible. It's like you wake up one day to tell you she's gone. You're like, how did this happen?
Exactly, exactly. But that's just the mercy of God, isn't it? That, even listening to you, in fact, the God, I just see that God had a purpose. He had something he wanted to do through the charity. And if she hadn't gone, you probably wouldn't even have put in the amount of energy or emotion or passion, or you just don't know how things would have panned out. But the fact that she kept asking.
Maureen, you're so right. Let me be honest with you, right? If I think God gave me the foundation and the things I do as a gift, because there is no way if I didn't have them, I would have survived. I'm being honest with you. Because what I then did was I was in so much pain. I was in unimaginable pain, right? And because I had unimaginable pain, I wanted to do more, not just to make her legacy real, but also so that I'm able to impact on other people's lives, right? And I think that's it's so important that's the foundation, the business, the thing, my career as a whole helped me get through the moment. And I still say to people, I still feel the same way I feel the day my mom died, right? But what I feel now is even though I'm sad, my sadness is not that sadness that drowns. The sadness
Yes.
I have now is the sadness that tells me, okay, yes, girl, you're sad, right? But how do you make sure the next person isn't sad, right? And I think that's very important for me. I don't know whether you feel that way, but that's what's really important for me. And I think for everything that we do, it's helped me like kind of cope, right? It's also helped me know that I have so much love to give. I have so much message
Mm-hmm,
to give. I
mm-hmm,
learned so much
mm-hmm.
from this woman who I describe as my woman of sunset. I call my mom I call her my mom, my angel, my womb baby, because I laugh because she's always fashionable and so beautiful. And she tells me because I never wear
Oh.
makeup. And I'm like, listen, I have so much to teach. Like, I have so much to share with the world. I have so much love in me to give because I received so much love, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
important. And I get emotional about
it
it, but
is.
like, we're so
Yeah,
blessed, to be blessed by great
absolutely.
women.
Absolutely. And it just shows how great women raise great women, doesn't it? Yeah. No, it's so
Exactly.
cool. Chichi, I could go on talking to you, but I think what I'm going to do, I know we've come up to the end of this podcast, but we're going to have to continue our conversation because there's
No
so
problem.
much to still unpack in terms of, where you are, what you do. And I
No, we
just,
can do that.
just,
That's
just
okay if you want us to. No problem.
think we should. Thank you so much. So I'm going to put all Chichi's details in the description below. So please look her up, look at the foundation, and if there's anything that you can do to support the foundation, please do. I'll put all the details below. Chichi, honestly, I am just so inspired by what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Your faith, your belief, your confidence, the work you do is just incredible, incredible. So keep going, keep soaring. And one final word from you to our listeners, anything you want to just give them as a word of wisdom, anything that comes to your mind, please do. So then we'll round it up.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maureen. Honestly, I cannot express like gratitude. I'm so happy we had this conversation. And I'm really happy like I just got to speak my heart, right? But I think for everyone listening, what I'm gonna say is that dreams are free. You have to dream, right? You have to work on your dream. And I think what you should also remember is that when this game is over, you want to be able to like look from your spirit world and look at your headstone and say to yourself, even though you're not physically there, I came here, I dreamt, I played my dream and I did it, right? I think what you should never do is live in regrets. Things will go wrong, things might be difficult sometimes, but you need to pull up yourself and pull those trousers if you're a trouser wearer like I am and just keep going, you know? And I really wish everyone the best. And the truth is that life is not always rosy, but it's not how many times you fall, but how quickly you can get up and keep rising. And I think that's what I need to say to people. And as my one of my mentors is Michelle Obama, and she'll say, when they go low, we go higher. So just remember that, right? When people try to pull you down, you're like, not today, Satan. I'm gonna get it done. I think that's really important. And so whatever you are, even if you're not Christian, if you're not a believer, just remember that you have the power within you because you've been created to actually excel in whatever you do. So best of luck, everyone. And obviously, it's Good Friday. So it's a significant day. Let's do some good for everyone today.
Oh,
Thank you so
wow.
much,
Wow.
Maureen.
Yeah. No, what a way to end. Dreams are free. And it's how quickly you get up, not how many times you fall. I love that. I love that. Chichi, thank you so very
Thanks,
much.
Maureen. Thank you.
Good Friday. We'll keep doing good. And please, listeners,
Amen.
listen to that advice. Just do good. Do good. And as a woman, raise other women. Do good for other people. Raise people. There are people that really need our help. Just go out there and be a blessing. Chichi,
Amen.
thank you so very
Thanks so
much. I
much,
look for
Maureen.
yeah.
Thank you
I look
so
forward
much.
to part two. Have a
Okay.
fantastic weekend, and
God
we'll
bless.
catch up soon.
Okay, my darling. Have a good Friday. Okay. God bless you. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Lead to Excel podcast. I hope our discussion has inspired you. Remember, achieving excellence is a marathon, and every step counts towards your goals. If today's conversation sparked any thoughts or questions, feel free to share them with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find this podcast on YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode filled with expert insights and inspiration. Until next time, this is Maureen Chiana reminding you to stay curious, stay driven, and together, let's remain limitless and change the world. Bye for now.